I've been waiting for this. Let's see what it says. No. No. This can't be. It says no. Is everything everywhere all at once hot garbage is a question that has plagued movie lovers' minds for years. However, I'm here finally to give my 2 cents on the argument. You know, there's 2 sides to this. There's the side that thinks it's the worst movie ever made. It shows the commoditization of cinema, and it shows how the new gen kind of like TikTok fast cuts and how that disallows any progression in art. And then there's another side that's like, well, it deserved Best Picture. And these are 2 radical sides that have very strong opinions on if they like it or dislike it. I mean, come on, deserved Best Picture? You know what came out in 2022? The Gray Man came out in 2022. Spirited came out in 2022. Minions, Rise of Gru. I mean, so many great movies. You're really gonna choose everything everywhere all at once? But then on the other side, there's these people leaving Letterboxd reviews calling it the worst movie ever made and talking about how it was ready humor, it was unfunny, how it was unimpressive, how it was boring, just really going into it for everything it is. So I'm here to look at, the good, the bad, and the ugly of this movie. I'm here to see, finally, once and for all, is this movie what they say it is? Hot garbage. Let's get into that. The good. First, we will be starting with the good things about Everything Everywhere All at Once, and there is a lot of good things, especially, you may be able to tell my opinion on it from that introduction. You may be able to get a little hint at what my opinion will be. I definitely think there's a lot of good things. So for first off, I'm going to say the visuals are very good in this, and that's 2 things to me. That's like, I guess the CGI is very good, and the editing isn't necessarily the visuals, but the editing is a lot of how you perceive the movie, and the cuts and the color grading and a lot of what it does that maybe is a little unique to this movie feels like it fits very well. So for the first part, I'm going to say the CGI. The CGI is, it's good at parts, it's very used at parts. There's the everything bagel. Well, it's maybe not such a funny joke, maybe that bagel, it's a good looking bagel, it looks alright. And then there's other moments in the movie where it's like fight scenes and it's really fast cuts, and I think this is what annoys a lot of people, but it looks pretty good. I think just a lot of the movie, it looks good, and how that fits into the movie is these fast cuts feel like they have purpose. It feels like it's not just doing that to grab your attention, even though it probably is trying to grab your attention for a lot of it. It feels like it serves maybe a more deeper meaning, whether that be the theme of feeling important or not feeling like you're gonna last forever, or the dynamic between these 2 people, the mom and the daughter. Their dynamic is brought together through the fast cuts, through all the action, through showing how many of them there are. It feels like you can visualize what they're going through. You can feel like time itself is moving fast in the movie, and it progresses the plot quick, which is pretty important because maybe the plot itself isn't as interesting as just looking at it is, so the visuals are added on in that sense. For the editing, the people who edited the movie, I don't think they were like professionally trained, so it's also pretty impressive, and you can tell Orson Welles, he said,
more virgin our eyes are, the more we have to say.
They did a very unique thing in the editing. It feels influenced by the landscape of today more than by movies in particular, and I think that's what people don't like about it, but I see that as a uniqueness within the movie. The way that it's edited, the way that it's put together is different than most other things, and that could be off-putting, and it adds to this aesthetic, which a lot of people don't like, and we're going to get into that a lot, is that I feel like a lot of what people don't like about this movie is based on the aesthetic, and I don't think that's a good reason to not like a movie if you just don't like the aesthetic Moving forward, there are a lot of other good things about it, like the dialogue and the humor in it is I think that it has its moments of being funny. Raccoonatui or whatever he's called. That's a funny joke. I feel like lots of people who hate this movie don't give it credit for being funny in parts, even though it may feel like Reddit millennial humor at times when it's like Be the Rock and when it's like the everything bagel, there's everything on the bagel and it's like, ugh, I don't know. But like there are moments where I think the humor is just additive. I think the humor just helps. We gotta give it credit for being funny when it's funny, even if it's not necessarily all the jokes don't land the whole time. Let me give an example of that. The writer of this movie, there's two writers. One of the writers of this movie wrote himself in as like this gimp character, I guess. It's hard to describe. He's one of the villains. He's one of like the sleeper agents that they have. I think that's pretty funny. I think that was, for me, the funniest thing was when it turns out that he wrote himself in. There's a lot of hits. There's a lot of hits in this movie, and if we're just going to get stun-locked, we're just going to say, oh, it feels millennial, it feels cringe, we're not going to be able to appreciate that. And I don't know. For me, there's a lot of good, and I could probably keep talking about it, but what a lot of people would be more interested in is the bad. Because this movie is so highly acclaimed, I would reckon a lot of people watching this do think it's a good movie. So when we're talking about the negatives, I think to a large number of people, unless you're on Letterboxd a lot, it's going to be surprising to even come up with so many negatives. Because you might have not seen the pretentious Letterboxd. I guess I keep saying that, but that's where they fester. Users talking about how much they hate this movie, but I'm here to tell you what they think, and a lot of their criticism comes from some of the jokes feeling a little millennial avocado toast Reddit, like the everything bagel, as I talked about earlier. It's just other things. I think I've talked about a lot of them already. Be the Rock, like when they see that, it feels like, why am I watching this? What do I have to learn from this movie? They're just making dumb things. And then when they see the fast cuts, when they see it trying to constantly grab your attention, it feels like maybe the TikTokification of movies, and it gives them a really bad feeling about what could be the future of cinema. Well, my camera just died, but it's 30 minutes later, we charged it up, we're back in it. Alright, I think what I was talking about when I left off was the story and what I think the problems with it is. And my main problem with the story itself would be the fact that not a whole lot really happens, and it doesn't feel this way, again, because of how it's fast cut, how it moves so quick. It feels like a lot's happening, but at the end of the day, it's just, so there's the real, I guess, the initial universe, and then there's all these branching universes. Within the real universe, they just go to the tax place, and then it branches off into all these other universes that they go to, and they fight and they come together and all that happens, but there's not a whole lot besides a lot of different locations that really feels substantial. And this may seem like a very, very big criticism, and it is a pretty big criticism, but again, you just don't really notice all this because of the way it's done, and that's, I think, on purpose. To me, again, it just doesn't feel like a whole lot's happening. It doesn't feel like a whole lot's happening besides this admittedly pretty basic plot is going on, but beyond that, it's just a bunch of gags. It's a bunch of different universes that are interesting, with hot dog hands, universes with rocks, no people. It's just a basic plot that's surrounded with this aura of complexity and this aura of self-importance. It thinks that it's making a big statement. It thinks that it's being really artistic, and at the end of the day, I don't think it's doing anything too crazy or anything too spectacular. I don't think it's making any great points. I don't think it's making it. I don't think it's saying a whole lot. But it's kind of fun, and if it's not saying a whole lot but it's fun, can you really say it's a terrible movie? Can you really say it's hot garbage? I think that consists of most of my criticisms, is that it is a basic plot that's surrounded with all this fast cuts, as all this TikTok quick, just putting a bunch of stuff into your eyes and brain, and it doesn't have a whole lot in the plot itself. I wanted to expand on it a little more, why I thought it was this way. So I think the primary reason to me it feels this way is that the directors and the writers don't have a connection to the story that I think a lot of writers would have to it. Like, for example, maybe in past lives it feels very personal, but in this story I'm not so certain that the writers had this experience to talk about. So when they're talking about it, it just feels kind of hollow. And the messaging, I think, comes across well because they have a personal connection to that. But it's the story. The way it's conveyed is through like the primary timeline and the relationship between the daughter and the mother. And it doesn't feel like they actually were that, because they just weren't. Like, they don't have the nuances of a personal experience that would allow them to know what it's like to be in that situation. They don't have the nuances to know what it smelled like, what it felt like. And it comes across to me that way through the substance of the movie. So it's time to move on to the ugly, the real, the deep, and the gritty. The ugly is completely different from the movie. It's the fall off, one might say. It's some bad stuff. You might remember a long time ago on YouTube, there was a short film that came out titled Nothing Except Everything. And this title itself is clearly derivative of Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. And that's not where the similarities end. But to go back, you may remember being recommended this video a long time ago. And you may have even watched it. You may have liked it. You may have hated it. But to me, I hate it. I hate it so much. And it is so clearly inspired from the same place that Everything, Everywhere, All at Once came from. Nothing Except Everything may have not been directly referential to Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, but it shows the place that Everything, Everywhere, All at Once came from. It shows what we could possibly go into. And Everything, Everywhere, All at Once is pushing this forward. Nothing Except Everything takes all the bad things from Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, and it puts it into one like 12-minute short film. And the fact that I had to see it, and I've seen it multiple times, the fact that I had to look at that, it's unforgivable. Now, if you've seen it, if you know anything about it, you may be saying to yourself, this was made by a senior. This was made by a student, a child, a 17, 18-year-old teenager. A teenager who had maybe a C-list actor who was the young Batman in the Batman cartoon TV show. A teenager who had access to a bunch of equipment because his parents are wealthy. I've looked into this even further since saying everything that I said here, and it's only made me more angry. It's a very dark rabbit hole. But let me tell you, Wesley Wang did absolutely nothing. He is credited as the director and writer because it's his project, but then literally in the description, everybody that you see is basically an industry professional. You have people, the VFX artist worked on The Bear and like 50 other modern, like incredibly popular things, and you just have to wonder, what did Wesley Wang do? I mean, there's so many people on here. There's like professional cinematographers, there's professional sound directors, there's professional music composers. What did he do? Did he write it? Because writing it was written like a 12-year-old wrote it. So like, that's not a very good thing. So he did literally nothing, and he's getting credited saying, oh, you made it his senior year of high school. It is awful. And I think I'm going to make a full video on this because I feel very passionately about how terrible this is. But let me just bring it back to the video, and I can actually relate it to the topic at hand. He has been given the opportunity to make this great short film, and he chose to make one of the worst things I've ever seen in my whole life. He has just thrown this resource. He's been given resources that so many people could only dream of, and he has chosen to make this terrible thing where he thinks he has some kind of grand idea, but in reality, it's oozing ignorance. It's oozing just lack of knowledge and the lack of understanding of the complexities of the world, and it feels like he's unable to use the tools around him to actually progress a story. The reason this makes me so mad is because Darren Aronofsky has said that he might work with him on making a feature-length film. There's no plot behind this. There's nothing. It is a hollow husk of a short film, and it is derivative of Everything Everywhere All at Once's worst features. It is derivative of the things that have caused Everything Everywhere All at Once to be called hot garbage. This short film is hot garbage, and if it comes from any place that Everything Everywhere All at Once comes from, then Everything Everywhere All at Once is at least a cousin, if not a father, of this short film. My hatred of this short film immediately demotes Everything Everywhere All at Once by at least like 1 point, maybe 2. I mean, it's hard to watch it without thinking of the pretentious nature of all of this. This is what really reeks death of cinema. This is what really reeks pretentious teenager who thinks that he knows so much, which, I mean, I guess I don't have a whole lot of room to like criticize that, because that happens to be a class that I'm a part of. But you hate to see something like that. You hate to see so much wasted, and I blame the people who made Everything Everywhere All at Once. So I think that's about everything. Overall, Everything Everywhere All at Once, it's not trash. It's not hot garbage. I give it maybe a 7, maybe an 8, 7.5 out of 10. We'll go 7.5. So what do you think about it? You disagree with that? I don't know. I mean, I know a lot of people do. I know a lot of people really hate Everything Everywhere All at Once. But I've been saying that word way too much recently, and I don't want to be thinking about it a whole lot more. So I think that's just where I'm going to finish off. Please like and subscribe. It really helps out. If you like this video, you can check out, we've made only a couple other videos so far, but we're trying to make more. If you have any other movies that you'd like to see reviewed like this, then I'd be receptive to those ideas. But overall, if I haven't already said it, no, it's not hot garbage. But my name is Brandon Hill, and this is Movie Tuesday. Thank you.